So I will now summarize Sithembiso's paper. The title is Solidarity Assurance, and subtitle Reality, Faith, and Action. So the subtitle indicates the three stages in which he moves his reflection: reality, faith, and action. Reality, the reality of COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa. Faith, the importance of faith in Africa. Action, the pragmatic action that needs to be done in that reality and in light of the place of faith for the people. Now, he's following the three steps of liberation theology, liberation hermeneutics. See, judge, and act. See reality, judge the faith, the institutions of faith. Act, pragmatic action. It's not enough just to have faith, but to have faith that you are able to bring into action. So those are the three sections of his paper, and I'll briefly introduce some of his arguments. So first, reality. He looks at the socio-economic problem. The African continent has been affected by COVID-19, with a majority of people infected in Africa. The majority are in South Africa. The markets in Africa have been severely affected by the pandemic. Peterson argues that the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has slumped to 3.7% due to the uncertainties in the markets. Tourism to South Africa dropped by 80% following the COVID-19 outbreak. And according to John Atagumba, the microeconomic costs of the COVID-19 pandemic relates to the challenges borne by the individuals, the households, firms, and other establishments like schools, hospitals, clinics, health centers, health facilities, health workers, especially. So it's the individual and the family that are really struggling. Those who have privileges and the government don't face the kind of struggle that the individuals and the families and the schools suffer. Food access for the majority of poor communities is a critical concern in the context of unemployment affecting both men and women. The restrictions that have come about in response to COVID-19 had the propensity to further worsen the already volatile situation, contributing to food insecurity and hunger. The challenge of food security affected poor communities in rural and urban areas. In the light of this, the South African government introduced the Emergency Social Insurance, or the Relief Social Assistance grants, to assist the most vulnerable in the community. So you might think, oh great, the government is doing something. However, the social relief grants were not without controversy, as the majority of the people who lost their businesses and jobs waited without success for their payouts from their respective employers. With COVID-19 and its economic fallout spreading in the poorest parts of the world, many more people will become poor and food insecure. So COVID-19, there are many people who were already poor before COVID-19. There will be more who will be poor and food insecure. So that is the reality, what he wants us to see in the context of South Africa. Faith. Religion of faith in the African context plays a significant role in the restoration of hope among the people. African nations are regarded as poor because of their struggling economies, but the continent is also known to be a faith community. Religion plays an important role in African discourse, especially during difficult times. The notion that we learn from liberation theology, preferential option for the poor, seeks to acknowledge the multifaceted scope of poverty while standing in solidarity with socially insignificant and excluded people. Gutierrez and Grudy had argued that human solidarity is achieved not by disregarding class struggle, but by siding with the victims. The preferential option for the poor is not just rhetoric or a slogan, but a biblical and theological mandate to liberate the poor from their suffering. According to the theme of liberation theology, the poor have a special kind of respect because they are especially situated to hear the word of God. The notion of solidarity becomes relevant in responding to the socio-economic challenges of the affected poor communities. The poor are not incapable of changing their own situation. They have the intellectual capacity to challenge their oppression and marginalization. Let me repeat that. The poor have the intellectual capacity to challenge their oppression and marginalization. They have the agency to engage systemic and structural oppression wherever it manifests in their context. However, they need to collaborate with others in their attempt to fight the empire in their midst. It is also the responsibility of the faith community to be in solidarity and to show compassion in the collaboration. So this is the judge part of Sithembiso's paper. The poor, don't think of the poor as people who can't think. They can think, but they need our solidarity. And it is our responsibility as the faith community to provide that with compassion in collaboration. Now the ACT. The ACT is where he goes to the Ujamaa Center's contextual Bible studies. And the ACT in response to the situation, to the reality, are in two stages in his essay. One is, as people like myself like to do, Ujamaa does contextual Bible study. Do Bible study. And in the context of COVID-19, the Bible study focused on the Lord's Prayer, according to Matthew's version, which is in Matthew 6, verses 9 to 13. And they highlighted several elements in the prayer that really comes alive in the context of COVID-19, such as, where will God's kingdom come? Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Where on earth will God's kingdom come? Another question, why is Jesus so concerned about bread for today? Bread for today. And why is Jesus so concerned about debt? Forgive us our debts as we forgive those. These elements make significant sense in the context of food insecurity and loss of job and the economic situation in Africa. So the first thing that they do is do Bible studies. But Bible studies alone does not feed the poor. Bible studies alone does not feed the hungry. So there is also an element of providing food parcels to the participants in the context of COVID-19 and their communities. So the Ujamaa theory of change in religion cannot be left alone while development takes place. And the work of Ujamaa, and this is what Sithembiso, Gerald West, and Tiniko is here as well, will help us see that there are two levels of action. We need to do the Bible study and the theological and all that material that we love to do as people of the church, but we also need to provide food for people who need food in this particular context. So that's my summary, and I'm sure that I hope I have not done too much injustice to his thesis, to his argument, but we will come to it during the time of discussion. And now.